Welcome back to America Decides. Viewers of last night's vice presidential debate have a lot of thoughts about how they each performed. And quite fortunately, they shared some of those thoughts with us. CBS News, right after the debate, found the audience was kind of split on who won. 17% thought it was a tie. But will this impact the race? We know it's extremely close. For some insight into that, I want to turn to our CBS News Executive Director of Elections and Surveys, your friend and mine, Anthony Salvanto. Anthony, what do we know?
Major, you described this in the last segment as a civil debate. I am here to report the voters of America seem to agree with you. This is the big number that stood out right after the debate, as you mentioned. People said it was a generally positive tone. Almost 9 in 10 described it that way. And what ramifications does that have? Well, let me show you this. When we break it down, I asked people, how did these candidates sound? Majority said they each sounded reasonable as opposed to extreme, right? And that sort of echoes some of there's political back and forth about who is reasonable, who's extreme, but nope, both of them come out on the reasonable side. So that's part and parcel of all that. But the final thing here, Major, I want to show you this, because you want to look at movement pre and post debate. Going into the debate, Walz was viewed favorably by 52%. His numbers went up to 60 favorable, and then Vance's number also went up 9 points on favorability among these debate viewers. So that kind of change, that kind of movement tells you that this debate had an impact, and it was a positive one, Major.
Anthony Salvanto, thank you. I want to bring in our political panel. Joining me right here at the table, Shelby Talcott, politics reporter for Semafor. Of course, all of you recognize Fin Gómez, our estimable CBS News political director. So I want to start with some sound from the debate that compares, I would say, not so favorably for the Harris-Walz campaign about the headline-grabbing situation in the Middle East. I want to play what Vice President Harris has said about Israel's ability to defend itself and what Governor Walz said in response to the very first question of the debate last night. Let's listen.
We will be unwavering. I will be unwavering in my commitment to Israel's ability to defend itself and to take seriously the need to deal with Iran in terms of the threat that it poses to U.S. interests, to our allies, and to stability in the region.
Israel's ability to be able to defend itself is absolutely fundamental. Getting its hostages back, fundamental, and ending the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. But the expansion of Israel and its proxies is an absolute fundamental necessity for the United States to have the steady leadership there.
Shelby, not a particularly strong moment for Governor Walz. He certainly got better as the debate progressed, but that contrast is pretty noteworthy.
Yeah, and I think, before the debate, we were hearing reports that Tim Walz was nervous, and there were questions about whether that was sort of expectation setting or whether he was legitimately nervous. When he came out and answered that first question, it did seem like he was legitimately nervous. And I think part of that is because he hasn't been out on the campaign trail taking questions as much as J.D. Vance has. J.D. Vance, as of a week or two ago, had done over 100 interviews and press availabilities since becoming the vice presidential nominee. Just having those reps, you could sort of tell that was the difference, and that his start sort of set the tone for the debate, I think.
It certainly set the tone for the early part of the debate. I think it would be fair to say he got his feet underneath him a little bit later. Actually, when he was sounding as if he was running for a third term as governor of Minnesota, talking about the Minnesota record, things that he was very deeply versed in. But to Shelby's point, Finn, this is a very interesting contrast and approach between the Trump and Vance campaign and the Harris-Walz campaign. Trump and Vance mix it up with the press much more regularly than Harris or Walz do. And that sort of insulated approach to politics can have a downside. And we saw a little bit of that last night.
No, absolutely. And I think that, conversely, when you look at Harris and Trump, how they prepared for their debate, their last debate, Harris did similar preparation to Walz, right? She kind of hunkered down in Pittsburgh. She did like the mock debates, and had someone stand in for Trump, all that stuff. He did the same, but I think there is something to engaging with voters, engaging with press, engaging with us, you know, and just really that joust is invaluable. You need the reps, as people say. And I think when you
As Shelby just said.
As Shelby literally just said next to me, Major, the esteemed Shelby. And I think you need those reps. And I think that if you know until you see that fastball in real life, you can't really take a practice swing.
I want to play some more sound that we might remember from the debate last night. It's when J.D. Vance addressed the issue of reproductive health, access, abortion rights, etc. And what he said was the work yet to be done by his party and, by extension, the leader of that party, former President Trump. Let's listen.
My party, we've got to do so much better of a job at earning the American people's trust back on this issue where they frankly just don't trust us. And I think that's one of the things that Donald Trump and I are endeavoring to do. I want us as a Republican Party to be pro-family in the fullest sense of the word.
Fullest sense of the word. There's no definition in America on what that means. It's just sounded like a way to try to get by a place that is causing pretty significant and noticeable political pain for the Trump-Vance campaign.
Abortion has been a tough topic for Republicans over the past few years, and when you talk to people on Donald Trump's campaign, they are not pretending otherwise, even though Donald Trump has come out and sort of said, well, he's staked out his position, so it shouldn't be an issue anymore. They know that it's going to be an issue in this election and that it doesn't necessarily favor them. At the same time, what I also thought was interesting during that debate, during those remarks, as J.D. Vance was talking about abortion, was Donald Trump was coming out on Twitter or X and deciding to say that, oh, actually, everybody knows that he would veto an abortion bill if it came to his desk, which, of course, he had dodged during the last debate. So that was pretty newsy.
This is very newsy, and I think it's going to be important to see in the next 24 to 48, 72 hours, what is the reaction, Finn, within the self-described pro-life community to see their leader of the Republican Party say, if a federal abortion ban of some number of weeks, 15 or otherwise, came to his desk, he would veto it. That's not what they want to hear. And that was news last night, and it came directly out of this interaction over this topic in our debate.
Well, I remember just a few weeks ago when he's kind of stepped into the same sort of quagmire on this issue, and he got that backlash from social conservatives. He immediately sort of, reversed that sort of sentiment. He has to play, and he's on a delicate balance here, Major. I mean, he essentially has to, appeal and please his base, because he has to ensure that they come out in 34 days, and at the same time, he has to, appeal enough to those people on the bubble in places like Pennsylvania, where that issue did win for Fetterman in 2022. Like he has to be able to say to both those groups, "I am your guy." Like that is a very tricky balance, and it did not work last time.
And the fact that he tried to do that in the midst of this vice presidential debate tells, I think, all of us that it's uppermost on their mind, and they're trying to find some way to recharacterize and reframe this. Shelby Talcott, Fin Gómez, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it as always.